Matthew chapter 26 verse 127 to 56. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they schemed to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or the people may riot. While Jesus was in Bethany in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. She poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why this waste?" they asked. "It could have been sold for a great amount and the money given to the poor." Jesus, aware of this, replied, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told, in her memory." Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him to you?" So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." They were very sad and began to say to him one by one, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord?" Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi?" Jesus answered, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "Tonight all of you will fall away because of me, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter declared, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter insisted, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, James and John, with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to his disciples and said, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go, here comes my betrayer." While Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man, arrest him." So he went at once to Jesus. "Greetings, Rabbi," he said, and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "For all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Or don't you think I could call on my Father, and he would at once provide more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" In that hour Jesus said to the crowds, "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come with swords and clubs to arrest me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this all happened so that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He went inside and sat with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false testimony against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally 2 false witnesses came forward, and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy God's temple and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, with an oath, "I charge you before the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any further witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they began to spit at him and to cover his face. Then they struck him with their fists. Some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, Christ. Who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it in front of them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again, with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, the onlookers came up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses on himself and said, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Chapter 2. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans to have Jesus executed. They bound him, led him away and handed him over to Pilate the governor. When Judas, the betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was overcome with remorse. He returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, "It is not right to put this money into the treasury, since it is an offering from the sale of a body." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it has remained the potter's field to this day. Then the words of the prophet Jeremiah were fulfilled. They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You have said so." When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the multitude of things they are accusing you of?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge. to the great surprise of the governor. Now it was the governor's custom at the feast to release a prisoner whom the people wanted, the notorious prisoner they called Barabbas. So when the crowd gathered, Pilate asked them, "Whom do you want me to release to you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Christ?" For he knew it was out of envy that they had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What should I do, then, with Jesus, who is called the Christ?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What evil has he done?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he could gain nothing, but that a riot was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd and said, "I am innocent of this man's blood, see to it yourselves." All the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and on our children." Then he released Barabbas to them. But he had Jesus flogged, and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spit on him, and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. Then the soldiers led him away to be crucified. As they were going out, they met a man named Simon, who was from Cyrene, and they forced this man to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine mixed with gall, but when he had tasted it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by throwing dice. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head they had posted the charge against him, which read, "This Jesus the King of the Jews." And 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are about to destroy the temple and are building it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross, if you are the Son of God." In the same way the chief priests, along with the teachers of the law and the elders, mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him descend now from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way the robbers who were crucified with him also insulted him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He soaked it in sour wine, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." Again Jesus cried out in a loud voice, and gave up his spirit. And at once the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. The ground shook and the rocks split. The tombs broke open and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. After Jesus' resurrection, they came out of the tombs and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified, and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to serve him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. When evening had come, there was a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. Taking courage, he went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Then Pilate ordered that the body be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone very carefully to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. Chapter 3. The next day, the one following the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate. "Sir," they said, "we remember that this impostor said while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise again.' So give the order for the tomb to be made secure for 3 days."